Assalamualaikum. So we are in a seminar of management accounting where me and my group would share with you guys about life cycle costing, all about life cycle costing. This video is made for our beloved lecturer, Madam Siti, Azrina, Binti, Adanan, and of course my favorite classmate. Hi everyone. Yes, before we start, we have few presenter, which is Nur Akila binti Sharif, Fatima Saida binti Faizullah, Siti Nurrahana binti Muhammad Rosli, and me myself, Nur Izati binti Bakri. We are going to tell you guys a lot about life cycle costing. We hope you won't be bored, because I promise you that is a lot. First of all, we are going to talk about product life cycle. We are going to know about product life cycle. So, what are you guys thinking? What are you guys imagining about what is product life cycle? What is product life cycle? Okay, I believe you guys will do this post, right? Because you guys are thinking about product life cycle. So, let me tell you guys. Okay, product life cycle is about the time consumed for a product from being introduced to the market and consumer until the product is being removed. Okay, there are a few stages. Okay, product life cycle is broken into four stages, which is introduction phases, growth phases, maturity, and lastly decline. Okay, for example, I show you guys. This is a cup. You can see this cup. By the way, this is new. This is new. Okay, this cup has a phase. I mean, there are phase of introduction, where in the introduction, this cup is being introduced to the market, and then the growth phase, and there are maturity phase, and there are a decline phase, where the decline when there are a new product, and this product will be removed from the shelf, like that. Product life cycle is being used by the management, by the marketing professional as a factor for them to decide when is the appropriate time to do such decision, such as when is the appropriate time for them to increase the advertising, and then when is the appropriate time to reduce the price of the product, and when for them to expand a new market, and lastly when is for them to redesign the product and also to redesign the packaging of the product. See before, phases of product life cycle broke into four stages, which is introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Okay, as you can see there is a graph showing sales over the time during the phases. At introduction phases, the sale of the product is quite lower, which is where they are just started to introduce the product, so they're a bit lower and comes up. At the growth, it consistently go up, and then at the maturity, they go into the peak sales, which is at that time the consumer already know about the product. Okay, so the sales at the maturity phase is quite higher than before, and then when it comes to decline phases, when the new product has been acknowledged by the consumer, the sales of the product will decline. I mean, will go decrease until it been removed. Next, guys, I will explain to you guys about the management focus on each phases of product life cycle. Okay, first, the first phase of product life cycle, which is introduction. Okay, what is the management focus in the introduction phase? Management will focus on advertising and promoting the product to the consumer to ensure that the consumer aware about the existence of the product. They will do an aggressive marketing for the consumer knows about the product. They might do marketing on social media, TV station, and also they might do direct marketing to the customer. Okay, next we go to the growth phase. At this phase, the consumer already know about the product. They already acknowledge about the existence of the product, so they want to try. At this phase, the management will focus on growing the demand of the product. They will build a trust to the consumer about the product, where the management need to increase the production and the expansion of the product. Maturity phase. Okay, at the maturity phase, the product is quite stable and quite long at the market. So there are a lot of people, a lot of consumers already use the product. So the management will only focus on the profitability of the product. At that time, the cost of production and the cost of marketing is declining. Okay. Next, at the decline phase. At the decline phase, the management focus on competing with others, where at that time there would be a new product that might be good, might be a lot of pros compared to their product. So they would do anything to compete with the other competitors. At that time, they might do some enhancement or lower the price. They might lower the price of the product, and they might do some improvement or enhancement to the product. At the time also, they might lose from the market share and starting to decline, and the product would be removed. Next, I'm going to share with you guys about introduction phase characteristic. Okay, first, what will happen during the introduction phase? Firstly, there are product, packing, branding, and labeling. Okay, the price of the product at that time is low penetration and high skimming. How about the promotion? Okay, the promotion at that time is so aggressive just because they want to increase awareness to consumer about the product. The distribution expenses also high at that time. Oh, not to forget, they are aggressively attract various market channels. However, about the profit are low or negative. Competitor around us at that time produce basic version just because how we of course would produce a newly product that a little bit better than the other competitor. Okay, and then the seller only focus on those buyers who are ready to buy. The product refinement during the introduction phase are also not possible. Okay, the strategy that the management might do is they must attracting customer through promotion activities, and then strengthen and expand the channel. Once they get their market channel, they must be strengthened. The market channel must be strengthened, and then itself must be available and visible for the consumer to buy and to see. Next, the setting price is alignment with the competitor out there. It must be not too high and not too low. And then inducing customer to buy the product like that. And then we go to the next phase. Okay, growth phase. Okay, the characteristic during growth phase. Firstly, sales increase at an increased rate. The new channel will handle new market. Shift of emphasis from product awareness to product belief. Alright, at that time, the consumer, we have to build the trust on the consumer. And then, during the growth phase, there will be a lot of competitor. The rate of competitor would increase. And then, improving feature or lowering of price to attract more consumer. Promotional expenses are same or slightly higherly. Educating market is main goal. The length of the growth stage varies according to the nature of the product and competitive reaction. The strategy to trade off between high profit and high market. Strategy that might do during the growth phase. Firstly, the company must establish a brand identity, and then they must maintain product quality. Even though the product have a lot of consumer, when the consumers start believe to the product, they must maintain the quality to maintain the trust. Maximize availability of product. Do more production to the product. Balance between price and demand as price elasticity. Shift from customer acquisition to retention. And then development of long-term relationship with consumer and partner. We must have a loyal customer and partner. Consider value. Consider value-based pricing strategies. Next is what we are going to talk about. Yes, the characteristic during maturity phase. We are here already at maturity phase. What is characteristic during maturity phase? Okay, firstly is overcapacity in the market. There are overproduction of the product. Intensified competition. There's a lot of competitors that promote the same product. Population growth, replace and replacement, demand covering future sales. Some laggard buyer still enter the market at that time. However, profit of the company start to decline because of what? Because there are a lot of competitors that promote the same product at better performance. Okay, next, no new distribution channel. Then, customers start moving towards substitutes that would find the product that might have same function but at lower price. And then strong marketing channel. High research and development budget. They would do a research and development again. What is strategy that the company might do is must have a strong market effort are required. They must have strong market effort. And then they should improve and enhance features of the product. Reduce the price to align with other competitor. And then distribution become more intensive and incentive may be offered to encourage product over competing product. Okay. Last. Okay, the characteristic in decline phase, which is sales of most product drop to zero or may remain at lower level. Sales also may be declined due to an advanced technology so that consumers shift in taste. And then profit start decline and at times become zero. How about the number of production? The number of production organization starts to drop. And what is strategy? The strategy is the product can be maintained in the market by doing differentiation or by keeping low cost by adding new features or by finding new customer. Use the product as a replacement product for launching another new product successfully in market. Lastly, the price may be reduced drastically just for them to clear up the product. Alright guys, alright. After we have been talk about product life cycle, phases of product life cycle, now we are going to talk about costing. Life cycle costing. What is life cycle costing, my friend? What is life cycle costing? Life cycle costing is all about the estimated of all costs involved in a project or a business venture. It classifies, record, and allocate the expenditure to determine the cost. There are two costs in this costing, which is determination of cost and predetermination of cost. Determination of cost is when the management already know the actual expenditure that they will incur in various departments and stages. What is the cost that will they incur in the stages of introduction? What is the cost that will they incur in growth stage, in maturity phase, and lastly at the decline stage? While for predetermination of cost is based on assumption. They don't know yet the actual expenditure. There might be the cost that they put is on the previous experience. Why the management need the presentation of data? This is because for the purpose of control and the guidance of the management. And each industry has a different treatment of calculating the cost. For the product industry, that's different with service industry. In service industry, there is no production cost. And lastly, the purpose of costing is like I said before, this for control and guidance for management, which specifically is to have a proper technique and process of ascertaining costs. It also would help the management in making decisions while knowing the cost exactly incurred, by the company. The management will do a wise decision. The cost also might help in estimating material, labor, and time consumed to produce the product. I think I break for a while, and I will give a chance to Nur Akila for sharing about the traditional course. Okay, Akila, go on.
Thank you, Siti. Hi everyone, my name is Akila Binti Muhammad Sharif, and I'm going to be a second presenter for this. Before this, we learned about product life cycle. Now we're going to learn about traditional costing. Did any of you heard about this? If not, I'm going to explain this to you. Okay, traditional costing is allocation of factory overhead to product based on the volume of production resources used or consumed. Overhead apply based on either the amount of direct labor hour consumed or machine hour consumed. Overhead must be higher than the basis of allocation, which is resulting a massive change on overheads if the volume of resources consumed also changes. But traditional costing also can be used for financial statement reporting, for cost of goods sold in evaluating ending inventory. There is no consequence from a management decision-making perspective. Next, we proceed to the differences of the traditional costing and life cycle costing. For traditional costing, the profitability is ascertained annually, while for the life cycle costing, the profitability is ascertained over life. And life of the product for traditional costing is split into several annual periods, and the strategies are prepared for an annual period only, while for the life cycle costing, life of the product split into several phases, which having its own characteristic and the strategy. Next, for the cost, for traditional costing, some costs never been traced to a product and charged to all the product based on a period or their volume during a period, while for life cycle costing, costs related to a product and always charged to that product. For action, for traditional costing, no early action can be taken as the life of product is never known, while for life cycle costing, early action can be planned in advance. Next, we proceed to what is life cycle costing. Life cycle costing is economic method to evaluate assets that takes into consideration all costs arising from owning, operating, maintaining, and disposing of the asset. Total discount cost of acquiring, operating and maintaining and disposing of an asset over its product life. Okay, after we know what is the life cycle costing, now we proceed to the characteristic of life cycle costing. There is 4 of characteristic of life cycle costing. First, the cost of the product life cycle required measuring the cost and the sales of a product during its life cycle for many calendar periods. Second, the cost of product life cycle analyze the cost of research, design, development, and the overall magnitude of this cost for each specific product compared to the revenue of the product. Third, each stage of life cycle cost introduce various risks and opportunities that may have involved different strategic approach. And lastly, the life cycle costing can be extended by the discovering new needs or customer, or by increasing current customer consumption. Okay, you guys, before this, we learned about characteristic of life cycle costing. Now we're going to learn about category of life cycle costing. Life cycle costing have 2 categories. Number 1, upstream cost. Number 2, downstream cost. Upstream cost is a cost incurred from beginning until manufacturing process. The cost range is from research and development until product design. And for downstream costs, costs incurred on finished product until delivered to the customer. The cost range is from marketing and distribution to cost service. The diagram shows the flow of upstream and downstream costs. Costs that involve under upstream costs is research and development costs and product design. Research and development costs is the process to obtain knowledge and might be used to create new product. While for product design, it is a process to create an idea, determine product feasibility, test the product and launch to the customer. Next, for the downstream costs, the cost involved is marketing and distribution and customer service. Marketing and distribution is the process of making the product available to the customer, while for the customer service, it is to support offer to the customer both before and after they buy and use the product. Did you guys stay with me? If yes, don't worry, it's going to be my last slide for this topic. Now, I'm going to explain about the process of life cycle costing. Process of a life cycle costing is a method of compiling all costs incurred over its lifespan by the owner or manufacturer of the product. Life cycle costing have three processes. Number 1, life cycle costing planning. Number 2, life cycle costing preparation. And lastly is implementing and monitoring life cost analysis. This process it will be explained further by our third presenter, Fazlin Saida. Well, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nur Akila. Hi everyone, my name is Fazlin Saida Binti Muhammad Faizullah, and I will be your next presenter for this semester. As Akila mentioned just now, there are three processes of life cycle costing. So we will look on each stage of the process. The first stage is life cycle costing planning. Basically, there are 4 steps involved. First, development of planning. Second, recording and reviewing life cycle costing result. Third, select life cycle costing model. And fourth, implementation life cycle costing model. Now, let us take a look more on this stage. Basically, what is life cycle costing planning? It is a process of life cycle costing. Start with life cycle costing planning, which includes purpose and scope of analysis. It is by stating the objective or output required to assist the management to make the decision. There are some typical objectives that are being used by the company. The first objective are and accept determinations of life cycle costing in order to assist planning, production, and budgeting. Next, identifications of costs will incur during design, development, acquisitions, or asset support system. And lastly, making detailed schedule of time for each phase such operation, technical, and maintenance required for the asset. Now, stage 2, which is life cycle costing preparation. In this stage, it is actually a tool that we actually use to control and manage the ongoing cost of an asset or part of it, and it uses real data costs. All estimate costs of capital will be replaced with actual cost paid. Changes will be made if there are a cost of breakdown and cost elements of assets component that had been monitored. Targeted costs of operation is occur based on costs initially estimated on the life cycle cost planning. However, there will be also changes of cost when the actual cost from actual assets operations or other operation costs has obtained. The last stage on the process of life cycle cost analysis, stage 3, which is implementing and monitoring life cycle costs. Implementations of the life cycle cost analysis involve the continuous monitoring of the actual performance of an asset during its operation and maintenance to identify areas in which cost saving may be made to provide feedback for future life cost planning activities. For example, it may be better to replace an expensive building component with a more efficient solution prior to the end of its useful life than to continue with a poor initial decision. That's it for stage 3, and I hope you guys understand all the process of life cycle cost analysis, which involve 3 stages. Every approach or practice established in the market has its pros and cons. So, let us take a look on the benefits of life cycle costing. The first benefit is all costs, whether productions or non-productions, will be traced to individual products over their complete life cycle, and hence individual product profitability can be more accurately measured. Second, the product life cycle costing result in earlier actions to generate revenue or to lower costs than otherwise might be considered. Third, product life cycle thinking can promote long-term rewarding in contrast to short-term profitability rewarding. Fourth, more accurate feedback on the success or failure of new products will be available. The fifth benefit, better decisions should follow from a more accurate and realistic assessment of revenues and costs, at least within a particular life cycle stage. Sixth, it helps management to understand the cost consequence of developing and making a product and to identify areas in which cost reduction efforts are likely to be most effective. Very often, 90% of the product life cycle costs are determined by decisions made in the development stage, and therefore, it is important to focus on these costs before the product enters the market. 7. Identifying the costs incurred during the different stages of a product life cycle provide an insight into understanding and managing the total costs incurred throughout its life cycle. Non-production costs will become more visible and the potential for their control is increased. Regardless of how good an approach or practice is there, it will be never 100% perfect, which is free from omissions and error. So, let us take a look on the weakness of the life cycle cost analysis. First, costly. Mainly in stage 1, life cycle cost planning incurred the most costs. This is because the costs include purpose and scope of analysis. Project lifetime for certain ongoing project can affect the entire cost. The longer the project lifetime, the more costs will be incurred. For example, repair and maintenance costs. The second weakness is time-consuming. All stages involve in activity that takes time since it involves problematizing issues, formulating scientific equations, and taking a step back in order to see the bigger picture. Since life cycle cost timeline is from start to the end of a product life, it may be too consuming. Another point lead to the weakness of LCC is technology. Since technology always changes day to day and innovated every single day, the LCC for a certain product will be outdated. LCC sometimes require considerable amounts of information which is usually unavailable, and much of it lacks credibility. Gathering the input data can be a real challenge. Hi, are you guys still okay? Are you still on the track? Feel motivated and fresh? It will be my last sessions on this seminar on challenges of LCC. Let's take a look. Okay, the first challenges, price levelizing consistently require the historic costs and expenses to be calculated in constant. Focus on the theory only but lack of involvement to the cost data inputs and output in the life cycle costs. Annual and periodic payments have to be related to a common basis for comparison purpose. Accurately assessing the maintenance and running costs of different materials, processes, and systems. Product to be produced must be in a good quality and do not violate the law. The product also must be trendy in the market. Raw data alone can be misleading since it does not have typical account for nuance and specify that should be factored into the data. Downtime and all capital costs need to be identified, and data's quality is also contingent upon labor rates and salvage history. To get accurate asset cost profiles, the company needs to complete cradle-to-grave history for the asset. This cost profile can be successfully built from scratch, but history data is needed to estimate costs by time and the usage. So at the end, I will pass to the next seminar section to Siti Nurfahana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fazlun Saida. Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Nurfahana Binti Muhammad Rosli. You guys can call me Farhana. Today I am your last presenter for this seminar. I hope you guys can grab all this new information, especially on the product life cycle and life cycle costing. The other presenter has already explained, so I hope you guys can really understand, because in my part, I will show you guys a little bit on the calculation part. We will apply it on the example and see whether the traditional method or life cycle costing is higher or lower on the cost price. Alright, are you guys ready? What? I can't hear you. Okay, let's start. After we have learned all elements on the life cycle costing, you guys must know what will be the implication when we apply the life cycle costing in order to compute the cost price. Actually, there are many implications when we apply life cycle costing. So, the first implication on life cycle costing is all about the pricing. Basically, by knowing the life cycle, it will help in order to ensure that affordable price of the product will be charged to the customer. Price plays an important role if the company wants to attract the customer to buy our product. Customer basically will ensure that the price of the product is logic and comparable with the quality of the product that they buy. As a producer, although we want to collect a higher profit, quality of the product also is important. Thus, the cost incurred in order to produce the product must be reasonable and lead to the higher and good quality of product. When the company gives a best quality of product to the customer, then the company can build the customer trust and then can make a lot of profit. So, actually, price plays an important role in life cycle costing, because all costs from the beginning, which start up the product until the disposal of the asset used in the production, will be considered. Which means that we will calculate all the costs incurred from the initial concept emerging from research and development process to the recycling of the material at the end of the product useful life. You guys understand? Get my point on the pricing? Good. Okay, let's proceed. For the second implication on life cycle costing is the performance of the management. As a management, the company should analyze, observe and see what will be the implication on the cost involved in producing the product. They should be alert on what will be the consequences situation happen in future. Normally, the company want to reduce the cost involved in order to get the higher profit. So, this might be the responsible for the management to study on the impacts toward the company, the customer and the product itself, because if the company only focus on the lower cost without the best quality served to the customer. Thus, for me, the performance of the management can see as success when they can analyze and serve the affordable price of the product with the best quality to their customer. It will help to improve the customer trust and the reputation of the company itself. It is because the customer already known if this kind of brand or company produce a product, the price and the quality is convenient and comparable or not. It meets the customer expectation or not. Okay, for the third implication on life cycle costing, of course, related to decision making. I ask you guys, do you think decision making is very important, or you guys just take it easy? Okay, let me give you an example. If you guys want to produce a car, then you guys just made it without thinking the cost will be incurred, the specs and functions, and what if the car is unsuccessful and the customer will not buy it? So of course, you guys will think deeply and find the sources and research, right? Okay, actually same goes to the life cycle costing. The company, especially the management, will study and evaluate before made a decision, especially on the product launch, product mix, who will be the target market, or should or not to proceed or continue with the production of the product. Decision making actually is a crucial part because we need to think very deeply what will be the impact or who will be affected on our decision making. On life cycle costing, there are many costs that we will take into consideration when we produce a product. Then the cost incurred in each production must be need to identify what will be the correct cost incurred. It is a good compared to others. So basically, decision making is one of the implications when we apply life cycle costing. Okay, actually we have arrived in the last part of our seminar today, which on the calculation part. All of you love calculation, right? From the beginning, it's all about theory, blah blah blah. So boring. Okay, so finally, this is the calculation part. We will see on the example and the application of life cycle costing and traditional method. Okay, before we start, we should see the formula of life cycle costing. Wow, that's so long. Okay, basically this is the general formula that can be used in order to calculate life cycle costing. Different industry will implement different formula, but still with the same concept, which is all costs from the beginning until the disposal of the asset. Okay, in order to calculate life cycle costing, we need to add all costs from the initial cost or the beginning cost until the disposal of asset used in the production of the product, and then we minus with residual value if any. From this formula, we can get the cost per unit of the product produced. Then, in order to calculate life cycle costing, I will apply an example so you guys can see and more understand. Hope so. Assume that we are a manufacturing company and then want to produce a smart television. Can you imagine? Okay, good. Apply it on product life cycle and life cycle costing at once. You guys already know about the phase on product life cycle and categories on life cycle costing, right? Okay, now we are on the introduction phase of product life cycle. In this phase, our target and objective is that we want to introduce a smart television to the market. We want the consumer know about the existing of our product and its benefit itself. We want the consumer has an option to have an electronic appliance that give a widescreen cinema-like experience to watch their favorite movies along with the technology advancement. Basically, in this phase, the company not yet made a profit because so much money has been used and spent to launch the product to the market. In the introduction phase, there are 4 costs incurred in year 1 and year 2. The costs incurred are research and development, production costs, marketing costs, and customer service costs. For research and development costs, it will be categorized under upstream costs because it is the cost incurred before the production of the product. While for the marketing and customer service costs, both will be categorized under downstream costs. While research and development upstream costs and the rest is categorized under downstream costs. Okay, this is because they categorize as downstream costs because the cost incurred after the production of the product. On the second phase of product life cycle, which is growth phase, in this phase where the sales and profit of the smart television will rapidly increase more and more. The consumer has realized the existing and the benefit of having the smart television in their home. The manufacturing company will increase the productivity in order to increase the production unit. The marketing department also need to ensure their cost on advertising their product is fully utilized. It is because it will give a big impact to the product. Other than that, the customer service also need to increase their performance in order to get the loyal customer. All customer will trust on our brands and product itself. In the growth phase, there are 3 costs involved in year 3 and year 4, which are the marketing costs, customer service costs, and the production costs. Again and again, the marketing and customer service costs will be categorized under downstream costs because it is incurred after the production is settled. As for the third phase on product life cycle is on the maturity phase. Okay, basically in this phase, there are many competitors that enter the market. It is because the competitors see on how interested consumer on buying the smart television. This is an opportunity tool for them in order to make profit. So, we are responsible to make an aggressive promotion and advertising in order to attract customer to buy our product instead of others' product. The sales and profit in this phase also higher because all costs incurred before this gotten back. The production unit will be maintained and increase a little bit in the production unit in this phase. Same as the growth phase, on the maturity phase, the marketing, the customer service, and the production costs will be incurred in year 5. Both marketing and customer service costs will be categorized under downstream costs. For the last phase on the product life cycle, of course, on the decline phase. In this phase, the sales start drop and they lead to the profit decline. The smart TV no longer attract consumer to buy it. Only a few people will buy it, but not trend yet. On this phase, the television producer will improve their design by making a new model with many technical improvements to take the smart television place. So the smart television will no longer be needed in the market. As for the cost incurred in decline phase, we will see the disposal of specialist equipment costs that has been used in the production of smart TV. This cost is incurred in year 6. The disposal cost will be categorized as downstream costs under life cycle costing. Are you guys okay? May I proceed or want to take break? Proceed? Okay, good. Okay, just now we have learned and see on the application of this example on the product life cycle and its costing. Okay, as for now, we will see on the application of this example on the process of life cycle costing. On the process of life cycle costing, on the first stage, which is life cycle costing planning, the company should plan properly their aims and goals. If they decide to make a smart TV, then they should incur some costs on research and development and design on the smart TV. The knowledge of television is very important because the producer should make the best quality of the smart TV so that there will be no cost added if something wrong may happen in the production. This stage may require to estimate and identify their startup costs before they produce the product. The cost involved in this stage in order to produce the smart television is amounting 8,420,000 ringgit Malaysia. Okay, moving forward to the second stage of process life cycle costing, which on the life cycle costing preparation. Okay, before we can produce the smart television, we should identify what and how much the cost that will be incurred in order to produce a smart television. On the third stage of implementing and monitoring life cycle costing, the company should include all costs relating to make the product exist in the market. All costs relating after the finished good already need to incur. The marketing and customer service cost is a cost that incurred to ensure the product reach the customers. The marketing and customer service costs incurred from year 1 until year 5. Okay, all costs that I have already explained just now, we can see in this illustration where what will be the cost incurred in the production of smart TV from year 1 until year 6. So basically, this company have to produce 35,000 unit of smart TV. So the cost incurred on research and development cost is amounting 8,420,000 ringgit Malaysia. For the marketing cost, the cost will give a total of 1,125,000 ringgit Malaysia. While for the production cost per unit is 6,100 ringgit Malaysia, with a total of 213,500,000 ringgit for 35,000 unit. Same goes to the customer service, which the cost per unit give a total of 850 ringgit, while for the 35,000 unit of smart TV amounting 5,700,000. And the last cost incurred in this life cycle cost is of course the disposal of specialist equipment and machine on year 6, which give a total of 1,200,000 ringgit Malaysia. Okay, in this table, you may see that all costs incurred in producing the smart TV. In order to calculate the life cycle costing, we need to add all costs from the research and development until the disposal of an asset. Okay, on this example, it gives a total of life cycle costing amounting 229,945,000 ringgit Malaysia, and then we divided with the unit produced of the smart TV, which is 35,000 unit. So by using life cycle costing, the cost smart TV per unit is amounting 6,569 ringgit and 86 cents. Okay, done with life cycle costing calculation. Let's take a look in the calculation of traditional method. By using the same figure as life cycle costing, we will calculate the traditional costing. In order to calculate, we need to add all costs or overhead annually. So the cost incurred is from the research and development until the customer service. The difference by using the traditional method and life cycle costing is we do not include the disposal of asset using in the production. So in this example, the total annual overhead for the smart TV is amounting 11,840,000, and then we divided with 2,000 unit produced in a year. So it gives a total cost for the smart TV amounting 5,920 ringgit. Okay, for the last part, we will see a little bit of comparison on the cost of smart television by using life cycle costing and traditional costing. So after we have calculated, the cost per unit on life cycle costing is amounting 6,569 ringgit and 86 cents, while for the traditional costing is amounting 5,920 ringgit. So we can make a conclusion that by using the life cycle costing, the cost much higher than we use the traditional costing. It is because we take all costs into consideration from the beginning until the disposal of assets used in the production of producing smart TV. That's all from me. Thank you for attending this seminar. I hope you guys enjoy and have a deep understanding about life cycle costing. So if there is a question, feel free to ask in Q&A session later. Thank you.